Alvin.
My husband and I moved into Mansfield Street about 18 months ago, and 6 months after we came here we found out that there was going to be possibly a big development happening up the top of Mansfield Street. It was great to be able to join with our neighbours in the area. We got together and we fought council, and we've just got a brilliant decision yesterday telling us that it's not going to go ahead. So good on Cairns and good on Mansfield Street residents.
Yeah, well, this all came about after we saw the application to subdivide and change of material use of change for Roy Lavis's spot up on top of the Mansfield Street hill, or the back of Earlville. 30 hectares of more or less pristine rainforest, cassowary habitat, rare frogs and threatened species of plants. So the community got together and basically were enraged and disturbed by the fact that we may have a large subdivision on our hands, and basically we had a meeting on this easement, which is council land. We had a good turnout of roughly about 80 to 90 people, thereabouts, and everybody was again on the side of trying to maintain and keep what we've got here as a rare little environment.
One of the issues that we had was that we really didn't understand what it was all about. The signs were all in complex language, and we really had to spend quite a bit of time coming to grips with what it all meant. Lots of new terminologies, lots of legal terms that we really didn't understand. So one of the good things was we had this big meeting here. We got, as we said, 80 people or so came along, and we had a number of councillors came along, as well as the acting CEO of the council, and or perhaps he wasn't acting CEO then, but Peter Tabulo came along, and we had explanations given to us as to what it all meant. And having got all those explanations, it gave us a lot of ammunition and a lot of understanding in how to go about forming our campaign. Our campaign really consisted of two phases. One was we had to get everything organised very early, because the date for objections, we really only had about 3 or 4 weeks from the time we first became aware of the fact that the subdivision was even there.
Okay, originally on the first application and looking through the submission to council, the local residents were very concerned that there wasn't enough checks and balances within that application to prevent further subdivision down the track and create another city view or a large blot on our hillsides of new developments. Subsequently, after putting our application in and making all the phone calls and showing that we weren't going to be easily discouraged, the second application to council by Connex, or the applicant, did spell out much clearer what their intentions were, and I think that in its own right was a success for getting them to actually do things or prove to us that they weren't hiding a hidden agenda.
The other thing that was always there was our concerns, the effect that this development, whether it was one house or more, would be that it would contaminate Chinaman's Creek, which runs along the northern side of boundary of his property and down through rainforest, somewhat pristine rainforest, and then into the back of Earlville. Our main concerns were that any works done on that hill would increase the risk of landslips. The area has been shown in a number of scientific studies to be a high-risk landslip area, and whenever there's going to be any landslips or erosion, it was going to always at risk of contaminating the rainforest and the creek, and blotting up filling the creek and the waterways leading into Trinity Inlet.
Essentially, the last thing that was the most important to all of the Cairns residents was the fact that there was going to be another mansion dead bang right up against the wet tropics and World Heritage listed rainforest. The only person that was going to benefit was one person, and the rest of the Cairns community was going to be disadvantaged by having that reduce our visual amenity and enjoyment of the actual scenery of the hillsides.
So yeah, we did letter drops, we spoke to people in the streets, we really covered this street plus several streets on either side, and down into Earlville and across to behind Moorabool. We spent quite a bit of time in that first 3 weeks, set up a website, phoned a lot of people, phoned the councillors quite a lot, drove some of the councillors mad, I'm sure. But in the end we got all of our submissions, we got nearly 80 submissions in, and we got them in on time. And that was the end of our first stage, our first phase. Our second phase was to keep up the community's interest and to garner more support, particularly from the councillors. And that took us a lot of phone calling, a lot of emails, and led us up to that point when the council was going to meet and vote on the issue.
Yeah, there was one thing that I'd like to mention is that there are groups out there, government-sponsored groups like the Environmental Defenders Office. Adam Miller, the lawyer there, absolute brilliant, gave us so much advice and direction on how we should put our submission together to put it into council, and also in regards of doing it right the first time. Mark Buttrose from Save Our Slopes also gave us a ton of information through his experience with False Cape, and this information, this assistance probably was totally beneficial for our overall success, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. That's great.
I just think it's fantastic to see the community so involved. I mean, we had 85 submissions against the proposal, and the residents managed to get together a community group really quickly, and were just so enthusiastic about trying to save the slopes. They constantly rung councillors, emailed councillors, wrote letters to councillors, which really helped convince a lot of the councillors that we should be saving our slopes, and to support my motion to refuse this. So it's really always fantastic to see the community get on board. So many times we have development applications come forward, and sometimes there hasn't been a strong community voice put behind it, but it's really great to see that this one time, and especially in my division, that the community really got together and were really united about what they wanted.